make this work somehow. Hello, this is Bruce, and you probably know that this is my classroom in the forest, which is right at this moment. There's a little bit of snow, and so it was kind of hard for me to bend down, so I thought I'd just dig a hole, and I can stand in the hole, and hopefully that'll be helpful. But anyway, you know that I like to make videos, I like to talk about people, I like to talk about things, and I like to talk about some kind of an idea, and hopefully link them together. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work, I know. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoy the content, subscribe if you want some more riveting action. If you don't like it, subscribe anyway, because, oh heck, it's no skin off your nose, I get it. But anyway, all right, so getting on with the meat of the matter. I just don't know. I mean, the guy that I want to talk about here is Vladimir Putin. Why not? He's a pretty bad person. And what I've been thinking earlier, I used to think, well, how much damage can one person possibly do? And how much can one person possibly steal? And this is related to economics and anyway, and the thing we'll talk about a little bit is oil. Why not? Okay, so getting on with it here. If you've been following the videos, and hopefully you have, you'll know that I talk about the ideas are grounded in economics. And one of the things about economics, I talked about the three actors that exist in an economy or in a society. There's the individual, there's the firm, and then there's government. And I explained that, you know, the role of the individual is to maximize their happiness, the role of the firm is to maximize their profit, and really the job of government is to maximize the welfare, the well-being of everyone. And so that sometimes requires a balancing of concerns and such. And I went on about this for a while. Another thing I talked about was how our criteria changes over time. Like the things that we realize now are problems in a certain number of decades ago, they didn't seem to be problems at all. And also, there's many examples of this. Like if you go back, I saw this great exhibit the other day about human waste, about poop. Hey, and the history really of poop management, and it was fascinating stuff. And so 1,000 years ago, this issue of poop was treated a little bit differently, and that one was that there just wasn't as much of it. Okay, then at one point, then there's lots and lots of it, and then say this rise of the city-state in the city of London, and there's all kinds of people dying of cholera and horrible diseases, and which were all largely related to sanitation. Someone come up with the bright idea, like, well, this idea of the sewer. The London sewer is one of the great historical achievements of humanity. It's a great thing. Now, what does this have to do with Vladimir Putin? Well, I'll tell you. Is the predicate of the discussion of economics is that we are, I think, what are called rational actors. That our behavior is sense made. There's sense made of it. Okay. Now, the problem with Putin and with aspects of Russian society, and right now that is impacting the entire world, is that the guy, he's not a rational actor. He years ago he decided, well, I'm going to steal everything that I can. So what does that mean exactly? Okay, so and if you recall, I spent a bit of time talking how governments don't really spend money. Okay, and in my earlier video I talked about the Premier of Nova Scotia, a guy named Tim Houston, and how he's identified a problem being that there are not enough medical resources in the province of Nova Scotia, and that one solution to that problem is that he's going to get some more doctors, and the way that's going to happen is he's established a medical school. And then I quoted him and I said that he said that he's going to figure out how to pay for it later. And I said, really, Mr. Houston, don't worry about it. And the basis of the don't worry about it is because governments don't spend money in the same sense that you or I do. And what does this have to do with Vladimir Putin? Well, the question is, if you have to place a monetary value upon something, and you wish to say, well, how much harm has Vladimir Putin done to Russian society? Well, this is possible. And Vladimir Putin and a group of his associates have essentially plundered the resources of Russia. Now, thankfully, in a sense, you can say that certain resources are almost inexhaustible, so it's possible to recover from such things, but that will likely not occur in my lifetime. But let's quantify it for a second. How much has Vladimir Putin taken from Russia? Well, if we start off with the cents, so put the decimal point here, and that's the pennies, okay? There's a single dollars, tens of dollars, hundreds of dollars. We'll put a comma there. Here's thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. There, we'll put another comma there. We're kind of over into the millions. Then we'll do another thing like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you put a 1 over here somewhere, then that becomes what we like to call a billion. Okay, so there's people that exist in the Western world and well throughout the world whose net assets are in the magnitude of billions of dollars. Okay, now let's, as a joke, go like this. That's a lot of zeros. They're up to what am I up to now? 12 zeros. Okay, and then we'll put here, and we're just for sake, we're going to put a 1 with an asterisk. Okay, draw a line under this. What's that? It's called trillion. Trillion. That's a trillion. Okay, so if you're thinking about computers, it's like a terabyte. It's like a trillion. So that's a kilobyte, a sort of megabytes, gigabytes, terabyte. That's a lot. And this is sort of an estimate in US dollars of the amount of money that our good friend, not a friend at all, Putin and his associates have, and by his associates I mean there's a network. It's around 1,000 people, around the close associates, the first level of periphery, the second level of periphery. This is what has been taken from Russian society. Now, I say, what has happened to it? Well, they've taken this and they've aggrandized themselves to unimaginable levels. I mean, and there's Western companies that have been willing to participate in this aggrandizement. I mean, if you spend $1 billion on a yacht, that's $1,000 million to build a boat for your own personal enjoyment. That you had to buy it from somewhere, so there would be a yacht building company somewhere in the world that would have taken that money and built it. But this is real. Now, in our continuing discussion of economics, I've talked about something called opportunity cost. I'm going to write that down. Opportunity cost. Okay. So opportunity cost is, I mean, you want to have a cheeseburger or you want to have a hot dog. And so if you have a cheeseburger, you can't have a hot dog, and vice versa. It's the things that you give up in favor of the things that you have. Okay. Now think about that. $1 trillion. So there are other people that make videos. There's people that make videos where they concentrate on Russia in the current age, and some guys like 1420, if you follow this guy Daniel Oran, he's a good person, and he interviews people in Moscow, he interviews people in rural Russia, interviews people throughout Russia, really. And when I watch these videos, and what I look at is I look at the person that's being interviewed, but I also look at behind them. So when you see behind them, you'll see cars, you'll see signage, you'll see road construction, you'll see stores, you'll see all kinds of things. And 100% of the things that you see behind them, well, not 100, but close enough to 100, let's call it 99% of the things that you see behind them, they come from Western nations, largely. Okay, and we're going to call China a Western nation because China is a version of a Western nation. At least 10 years ago, that was true for sure. Okay, so none of those things come from Russia. Now, this idea of opportunity costs. So if you have if you've diverted $1 trillion from your economy over a span of 20 years, which is $50 billion a year, $1 billion a week, and then if you look at one of these videos that's made in rural Russia, you're going to notice that people are carrying water in buckets. And the buckets aren't even new, they're old. They're carrying water so that they can live their lives, so that they can wash themselves and their children, all that stuff. So something simple like indoor plumbing does not exist in many Russian communities. Electricity is sporadic at best in many Russian communities. There you go. Now, a while ago, I'd mentioned a guy named Dudek. He's a poet, a French-Canadian poet, Dudek. And he said that you can gauge a society, you can measure the value of a society in the things that are taken for granted. So if you happen to be living in a community where what is normal for you is an outhouse or a hole in the ground for you to facilitate your business. I remember I talked about this exhibit on the history of poop. If that is normal for you, and it's normal for you to carry a bucket of water and somehow heat it with scarce firewood so you can wash yourself and your family, that is, if you accept that as normal, then that is really a judgment that's being placed upon your society. Now, this $1 trillion, you know, what is a trillion? A trillion is 1,000 billion dollars. It's $1 billion a week for 20 years. That is something that's been robbed from the Russian people. It's been deprived, right? So it could have had. It could have been so much better. I mean, you want to look at better? Let's contrast for a second Russia and China. Okay, it's been widely recognized that China has eliminated abject poverty from their society. Okay, so we might not agree with a bunch of stuff about China, but objectively, abject poverty has been eliminated from society in mainland China. And not only that, but I visited mainland China 14 years ago, and I visited mainland China more recently, and the contrast is that the society has been moving in kind of a progressive direction. So they've acknowledged, okay, we have these assets, we have these shortcomings, these are some things that we can do better, these are some things that we do well. Okay. Now we might not, remember I said we might not agree with everything about China, but we're contrasting China and Russia. Okay, so what has happened is in Russia is that the president of the country, Putin, has by lies, subjugation, and big lies. I mean, like, let's quote Bob Dylan for a second. Steal a little and they throw you in jail. Steal a lot and they make you a king. Okay, so Vladimir Putin has built himself a palace that reportedly at a cost of $1 billion or greater. It's secret. You don't talk about it because it just gets you into trouble in Russia, and that's not good. You don't have this free expression of your ideas that exist. You know, the free expression of ideas is very important, because what happens is if you have a dumb idea and your idea is, okay, let's steal everything we can as quickly as we can, as fast as we can, and as long as we can. If that's your idea, then a free expression of ideas means that someone is going to say, you know what? No. You're not going to do that. That's bad. It's depriving us of good, and just a hard no. All right. Now, I'm about as I'm a pacifist of the first order, I guess. I don't condone, appreciate, or I don't want to watch violence. I don't want to hear about violence. I want. If you've been following these videos, you might get the idea that, you know, at my core, I think at my core, I want everybody to be happy, and which is maybe it's a little bit naive, but hell, I'll take it. Now, so what's happening is Vladimir Putin, to distract from this grotesque thievery and his complete disregard for the citizens of Russia, he's chosen to invade Ukraine. Now, before invading Ukraine, he did a practice, I guess you're going to call it a practice thing, where he destroyed Chechnya, Grozny. It went on later and destroyed Syria, Aleppo, because he was invited to do that by another brutal totalitarian dictator, and that was bad. But now Putin has invaded Ukraine, and there's a few things that have precipitated from that invasion. One thing is that my good Ukraine friend here in Canada said that Russia's main export is poverty, famine, and despair. Wow. and it's looking that way. But so a lot of misery has happened as a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and that misery is on both sides. I feel my heart goes out to the Russian conscripts and the people that are really being horribly injured and killed to the tune of 200,000 or more at this moment, and then the unspeakable losses in Ukraine. That's awful. It's crushing and heartbreaking. But one of the things that has happened is that Vladimir Putin has revealed to the world that the great Russian military might is not so much. I mean, their invasion of Ukraine is a military failure. It's a logistics failure. It's a humanitarian failure. It's a multi-dimensional failure in every degree that you can choose to assess it, and that is horrible. And so, what does this have to do with ideas, and what does this have to do with economics? Well, a lot. And there's a question that's going to happen on about page 30 of any first-year economics textbook, is this question between butter and bullets. Is it better to make butter, or is it better to make bullets? Well, if you're hungry, I guess it's butter. And if you're under threat from an irrational, non-cogent dictator who's bent on destroying everything, I think that it's a good time to have bullets. And so at this moment, let's give a little bit of credit to President Zelensky of Ukraine, who by every observation I can make is doing really a fine job, and I appreciate that. There you go. But this video has been maybe not as fun as some of the other ones have been, and I don't know if they're fun at all. I mean, if you find this stuff fun or interesting, please subscribe. If you don't find it fun at all, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit the like button, and if you don't like it, hit the like button. It's one of these things that I talk about opportunity cost. Well, the opportunity cost of hitting the like button is that you didn't hit the thumbs down button, and but really either way, it matters. I don't know. I don't really know how this stuff works. Okay, but you want to talk about freedom, free society, free expression of ideas? Well, YouTube and Google are facilitating, in this context, a free expression of ideas. And thank you very much to the people that invented this. And things tend to get invented in societies that have free exchange of ideas, because if you got a bad idea, it tends to get winnowed out pretty quickly. Anyway, mine's name is Bruce. This is my channel. These are my videos. These ideas that I talk about, they're not even original. I mean, you can look it up in any economics textbook. There you have it. I mean, maybe it's kind of original. What do you think? Leave a comment. Let me know how original it is. Anyway, I'm gonna call this one done. So thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. And that's it. Okay, bye. And I had to dig a hole. Erase this off. Cost this one? $1 trillion. Unimaginable. Erase this off. Take this. Take my shovel. I don't need that anymore. All right. Let's see if I can get out of here.